Some people are not tired because life is hard. They are tired because their mind never stops fighting invisible battles. Battles that never happened. Conversations that never happened. Rejections that never happened. Disasters that only existed inside fear. And after years of overthinking, the mind becomes so loud that even peaceful moments start feeling heavy. They smile in front of people, but secretly feel exhausted inside. They try to rest, but their thoughts keep attacking them. They try to enjoy life, but their mind keeps preparing for pain. And slowly, they begin suffering more from imagination than reality itself. This is one of the deepest truths Buddhism teaches. An uncontrolled mind can create storms, even when life is calm. And if you keep feeding those storms with fear, overthinking, and emotional attachment, your own mind can quietly steal your peace, your happiness, and eventually your entire life. Tonight, you may understand why your thoughts have been exhausting you for so long, and how inner peace begins the moment you stop feeding the storm inside your mind. Your mind creates fear before reality even speaks. The mind is incredibly fast, much faster than reality itself. Something very small happens in your life, and before truth even has the chance to appear, the mind already starts creating fear. Someone becomes quiet for a few hours, and suddenly the mind says, they are upset with you, they are losing interest, they no longer care. A person changes their tone slightly during one conversation, and the mind immediately whispers, you said something wrong, you ruined the connection. They secretly dislike you now. You make one small mistake at work, or forget something simple, and suddenly the mind starts creating painful stories about your future. You are failing in life. You will never become successful. Everyone else is ahead of you. This happens every single day to millions of people. Reality gives them one small moment, but the mind turns that moment into emotional chaos. And the dangerous part is this: the mind does not wait for facts. It fills empty spaces with fear. Instead of calmly waiting to understand the situation, the mind rushes to create the worst possible meaning. This is why so many people suffer mentally. Even when nothing serious is happening around them, their body is sitting in a peaceful room, but inside their mind there is panic, fear, stress, overthinking, and emotional exhaustion. Their heart feels heavy, their chest feels tight. Their thoughts keep running in circles, not because reality attacked them, but because the mind created danger where danger did not exist. Buddhism teaches something deeply important. The uncontrolled mind behaves like fire. If you keep feeding it fear, it keeps becoming stronger. If you keep feeding it overthinking, it keeps creating more confusion. And after some time, the mind becomes so noisy that even peaceful moments begin feeling stressful. This is why many people cannot relax anymore. Even during beautiful moments, their mind keeps searching for problems. They sit with people they love, but part of their mind fears losing them. They finally get a peaceful day, but their thoughts immediately search for the next possible disaster. They try to sleep at night, but the mind keeps replaying old memories, old pain, old embarrassment, old fears. And slowly, they become emotionally tired all the time. Not because life is attacking them every day, but because the mind never stops preparing for pain. The strange thing about the human mind is this: it believes worrying creates safety. It believes overthinking gives control. The mind says, if I prepare for every bad possibility, maybe I can protect myself. But most of the time, this habit only creates suffering before suffering even exists. Think about how many times you worried deeply about something and later realized it never happened. How many nights you lost sleep over situations that never became real. How many imaginary conversations hurt your feelings, even though those conversations only existed inside your head. How many times you assumed someone hated you when they were simply busy, tired, or distracted. This is how powerful the mind can become when awareness disappears. The mind starts creating stories, and the body starts reacting as if those stories are true. This is why overthinking can physically exhaust a person. The danger may not be real, but the body still feels stress. The nervous system still becomes tense. The emotions still become heavy. And after years of this pattern, many people forget what inner peace even feels like. Buddhism teaches that suffering often begins not from reality itself, but from attachment to fearful thinking. The mind keeps creating storms, and people keep believing every storm is real. But healing begins the moment you slow down and observe the mind carefully. The moment you begin noticing how quickly fear appears, something powerful changes inside you. You stop reacting immediately to every negative thought. You stop treating every fear like truth. You begin understanding something deeply freeing. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your belief. Some thoughts are simply old pain repeating itself. Some thoughts are anxiety speaking loudly. Some thoughts are emotional habits your mind became addicted to over many years. And once you finally see this clearly, the storm inside your mind slowly starts losing power, because awareness weakens fear. The moment you stop blindly following every fearful thought, you begin returning to peace. You become a prisoner of the thoughts you believe. One of the biggest reasons people suffer in silence is because they believe every thought that appears inside their mind. The mind speaks all day long, from the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep. Sometimes the voice is quiet, sometimes it is loud, but it almost never stops. You are not enough. You are falling behind in life. People do not truly care about you. You always ruin things. You will fail again. Something bad is coming. You are losing control. You are not lovable. You will never feel peace. And after hearing these thoughts again and again for years, people stop questioning them. They stop observing them. They stop separating themselves from them. Instead, they begin accepting those thoughts as truth. This is where suffering becomes dangerous, because once a person starts believing every negative thought, the mind slowly takes control of their emotions, their peace, their confidence, and even the way they see themselves. Buddhism teaches something deeply powerful. A thought is only a thought. It is not reality. Just because the mind says something does not mean it is true. This changes everything, because most people live as if every thought inside their head is a fact. The mind says, "You are failing," so they feel hopeless. The mind says they will leave you, so they panic emotionally. The mind says, "You are not good enough," so they begin doubting their entire worth. The mind says, "Something terrible is about to happen," and suddenly their body becomes tense, their breathing changes, their chest feels heavy, and their peace disappears. All because of a thought, not reality, a thought. This is why Buddhism places so much importance on awareness, because awareness helps you see that the mind is constantly creating emotional noise, and much of that noise is not true. Sometimes the mind speaks from old pain, old heartbreak, old rejection, old embarrassment, old fear that was never healed properly. A person who was abandoned in the past may constantly fear abandonment again. A person who was deeply criticized growing up may hear a voice inside saying, "You will never be enough." A person who experienced betrayal may start distrusting everyone, even people who genuinely care about them. The mind keeps repeating old wounds until those wounds begin feeling like identity. And after years of listening to those thoughts, people become prisoners of their own mind, not because someone locked them inside a cage, but because fearful thinking became the cage. This is why some people can never relax. Even when life becomes peaceful, their outer life may become calm, but inside, the mind keeps producing fear. The mind keeps searching for danger. The mind keeps whispering, "Do not trust this peace. Something will go wrong soon." And slowly they become addicted to emotional suffering without realizing it. The mind says overthink, so they overthink for hours. The mind says panic, so they panic immediately. The mind says, imagine the worst, and suddenly they create painful futures inside their head that do not even exist. This is why many people suffer more in imagination than in reality. Their thoughts exhaust them more than life itself. One small situation happens, and the mind creates 10 different fears from it. A simple message gets ignored for a few hours, and the mind starts creating stories of rejection. One awkward moment happens, and the mind replays it for days. One mistake happens, and suddenly the mind says, "You ruined everything." The dangerous part is that the mind sounds convincing. Fear often speaks with confidence. That is why people trust it so easily. But Buddhism teaches that thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky. Some clouds are dark, some are light, some disappear quickly, but none of them are the sky itself. In the same way, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching them. This realization can completely change a person's life, because the moment you stop blindly believing every thought, the prison starts breaking apart. You begin noticing how many thoughts were only fear, how many were only insecurity, how many were emotional habits repeated so often that they started feeling true. And slowly, you stop reacting to every voice inside your head. You stop giving power to every negative sentence the mind creates. You begin breathing more deeply. You begin feeling lighter. You begin understanding that peace was never destroyed by reality itself. It was destroyed by unconscious thinking. Many people spend their entire lives trapped inside mental prisons without realizing the prison door was never locked. The prison was created by fearful thinking, and every time they believed another negative thought, another wall was built around them. But awareness changes everything. The moment you begin observing the mind instead of obeying it, you begin waking up from the storm, and that awakening is the beginning of inner freedom. Every fear you feed quietly takes control of you. Fear becomes stronger every time you feed it with attention. This is one of the deepest truths many people never realize. Whatever you repeatedly focus on inside your mind slowly begins controlling your emotional world. If you keep feeding anger, anger grows stronger. If you keep feeding sadness, sadness becomes heavier. And if you constantly feed fear, fear slowly takes control of your thoughts, your emotions, your body, your decisions, and eventually your entire life. This is how many people lose their inner peace without even noticing it. At first, it starts with small overthinking. One small worry, one small fear, one small painful thought. But instead of letting that thought pass naturally, the mind keeps returning to it again and again. It replays the situation. It analyzes every detail. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It creates painful futures that do not even exist yet. And little by little, the fear becomes emotionally powerful. This is why overthinking feels endless. Because attention keeps feeding the storm. The mind says, "Think about it one more time." And the person listens. Then the mind says, "What if something goes wrong?" And again, the person listens. Then the mind says, "Prepare for pain before it happens." And slowly, fear becomes a daily habit. Many people wake up already anxious before the day even begins. Not because something terrible happened, but because the mind immediately starts searching for problems. Some people cannot even enjoy peaceful moments anymore. The moment life becomes calm, their mind starts creating new fears. If someone loves them, they fear losing them. If life becomes stable, they fear everything collapsing. If they finally feel happy, they fear the happiness will disappear. The mind becomes addicted to preparing for pain, and after years of this habit, the nervous system forgets how to relax. This is why some people are physically exhausted all the time. Their body may be resting, but their mind never rests. Even during sleep, their thoughts continue running. This is what fear does when it is constantly fed. It slowly becomes stronger than the present moment. Buddhism teaches that attention is energy. Whatever you continuously give energy to grows inside you. This is why fearful thinking becomes dangerous when it is repeated every day. One fearful thought becomes 10 more. One worry creates another worry. One insecurity creates another insecurity. And eventually, the mind creates storms so often that peace starts feeling unfamiliar. Some people become so used to mental chaos that silence almost feels uncomfortable. When life becomes quiet, they immediately search for something to worry about, because emotional storms became normal to them. The mind tricks them into believing that worrying keeps them safe. But in reality, constant fear only steals life from the present moment. Think about how many beautiful moments people miss because their mind is somewhere else. A person is sitting with family, but mentally replaying painful memories. A person is watching the sunset, but worrying about tomorrow. A person is receiving love, but fearing abandonment at the same time. Their body is present, but their mind is trapped inside imagined fear. This is how fear quietly steals life, not all at once, slowly, silently, day after day. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when attachment grows, and many people are deeply attached to fearful thinking without realizing it. They became attached to overthinking, attached to anxiety, attached to emotional chaos. The storm became so familiar that they forgot what inner stillness feels like. But something beautiful happens the moment awareness enters the mind. You begin noticing the pattern. You begin seeing how fear grows every time attention feeds it. And slowly you stop giving every fearful thought your full energy. You stop chasing every negative idea. You stop replaying painful situations endlessly. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you observe the fear without becoming the fear. This is where healing truly begins, because fear loses power when it stops receiving constant attention. A thought may still appear, but you no longer feed it for hours. Anxiety may still knock on the door of the mind, but you no longer invite it to stay all night. This is the difference between unconscious suffering and awareness. Unconscious people feed every storm. Aware people notice the storm without becoming trapped inside it, and slowly the mind becomes quieter, the heart becomes lighter, the body becomes calmer, because peace begins returning the moment fear stops controlling your attention. The truth is, every fear you continuously feed will eventually control you. But every fear you observe without feeding slowly loses its power over your life. Your body carries stress from battles that never happened. Many people believe suffering only exists inside the mind. But Buddhism teaches something deeply important. The body also carries the weight of the mind. This means even imagined fear can create real pain inside the body. A stressful thought appears, and suddenly the chest feels heavy, the breathing becomes shallow, the shoulders tighten, the stomach feels uncomfortable, the heart starts beating faster. Nothing dangerous may actually be happening in reality, yet the body reacts as if a real threat is standing directly in front of you. This is how powerful the mind can become when fear controls it. The body listens carefully to every thought you repeatedly believe. If the mind constantly says, "Something bad is coming," the body prepares for danger. If the mind constantly overthinks, the nervous system stays tense. If the mind keeps replaying painful memories, the body continues carrying emotional stress long after the moment has ended. This is why many people feel emotionally and physically exhausted all the time, even when their life looks normal from the outside. Their body is tired not because of hard physical work, but because their mind never truly rests. Some people wake up already feeling heavy inside, not because something bad happened that morning, but because their mind immediately starts creating pressure the moment they open their eyes. They begin thinking about problems, imagining stressful situations, remembering painful memories, fearing future pain, and before the day even properly begins, their nervous system is already exhausted. This is how many people secretly live every single day, always alert, always mentally preparing for disaster, always expecting something painful to happen next. Even during calm moments, their body struggles to relax. because the mind never stops sending signals of danger. Buddhism teaches that suffering becomes stronger when the mind leaves the present moment and becomes trapped inside fear. Instead of living in what is happening now, the mind keeps living inside. What if? What if I lose them? What if I fail? What if my future becomes painful? What if everything falls apart? And after repeating these fears for months or years, the body begins carrying invisible emotional weight everywhere. This is why some people feel tired even after sleeping. Their body may rest, but their mind continues fighting invisible battles all night long. Many people do not realize how deeply overthinking affects the body. The mind may create the storm, but the body experiences the storm physically. The body cannot always tell the difference between real danger and imagined danger. If the mind repeats fearful thoughts long enough, the body starts living as if those fears are real. This is why anxiety feels so physical. The fear may begin in the mind, but eventually it spreads through the entire body. And sadly, many people become so used to this constant tension that they forget what peace even feels like. Stress becomes normal. Overthinking becomes normal. Mental chaos becomes normal. Some people cannot even sit quietly anymore without feeling uncomfortable. The moment silence appears, the mind immediately searches for something to worry about. Because the nervous system became addicted to emotional tension, peace starts feeling unfamiliar, and the human mind often clings to familiar suffering because it feels safer than unknown peace. This is why healing requires more than positive thinking. Healing requires awareness. You must begin noticing how much pressure the mind keeps placing on the body every single day. Notice how your breathing changes when fear appears. Notice how your chest tightens when overthinking begins. Notice how quickly the body reacts to negative thoughts, because awareness is the first step toward freedom. The moment you observe these patterns carefully, you begin understanding something powerful. Not every thought deserves a physical reaction. Not every fear deserves panic. Not every emotion is an emergency. Sometimes the body only needs one thing: stillness, rest, silence, a break from the endless storms created by the mind. Buddhism teaches that peace begins when you stop fighting invisible battles inside your head. The moment you stop feeding fear constantly, the body slowly begins relaxing again. The breathing becomes softer. The nervous system becomes calmer, sleep becomes deeper, the heart feels lighter, and for the first time in a long time, you begin feeling safe inside your own life again. Many people spend years trying to heal their body without realizing the real storm is happening inside the mind. Because when the mind constantly lives in fear, the body quietly suffers beside it. But when awareness enters the mind, healing slowly enters the body too. This is why inner peace is not only emotional, it is physical. The body feels peace when the mind finally stops creating danger where danger does not exist. And sometimes the deepest healing begins the moment you stop asking, "What could go wrong?" and finally allow yourself to rest inside the present moment. Most of the pain you fear never arrives. One of the saddest things about the human mind is how much suffering it creates from events that never even happen. Many people spend years worrying about futures that never arrive. They lose sleep over situations that only existed inside their imagination. They emotionally suffer over conversations that never happened, rejections that never came, failures that never became real, and disasters that existed only inside fearful thinking. The mind has a powerful habit of predicting pain before life even unfolds. It constantly whispers, "What if something goes wrong? What if everything falls apart? What if you lose the people you love? What if your future becomes painful?" And because those thoughts feel emotionally intense, people start believing they are preparing themselves for reality. But most of the time, they are only preparing themselves for unnecessary suffering. Buddhism teaches that the fearful mind struggles to trust life. It wants certainty. It wants control. It wants guarantees that pain will never come. But life cannot be controlled completely. And the more the mind tries to control the future through fear, the more peace disappears from the present moment. This is why many people are mentally exhausted all the time. Not because terrible things keep happening to them, but because they constantly imagine terrible things happening. Their mind keeps creating emotional storms from possibilities instead of realities. Think about how many times you deeply feared something in the past. Maybe you feared losing someone. Maybe you feared failing. Maybe you feared embarrassment, rejection, judgment, or loneliness. At the time, those fears felt incredibly real. Your chest became heavy. Your mind kept racing. Your emotions became unstable. You thought about the situation again and again until it completely consumed your peace. But later, many of those fears never actually happened. And even when difficult moments did happen, they were often not as terrible as the mind imagined. This is because fear almost always exaggerates pain. The mind creates dark futures and then emotionally reacts to them as if they already became real. This is why people suffer twice, first in imagination, then again in reality if something difficult truly happens. The mind turns possibility into emotional punishment. And after years of this pattern, many people become addicted to preparing for pain. They stop trusting peaceful moments. The moment life becomes calm, the mind immediately searches for danger. If someone loves them, they fear abandonment. If life becomes stable, they fear losing everything. If happiness appears, they become afraid it will disappear. The mind cannot fully enjoy the present because it is too busy fearing the future. This is one of the deepest forms of suffering. A person may finally reach a peaceful moment in life, yet their own mind refuses to let them experience it completely. Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes, pain changes, fear changes, thoughts change, situations change, emotions change. Nothing remains forever, but the fearful mind acts as if every painful emotion will last forever. When anxiety appears, the mind says, "You will always feel this way." When sadness appears, the mind whispers, "This pain will never end." When uncertainty appears, the mind immediately creates hopelessness. But life keeps moving. Storms pass, feelings shift, and many of the things the mind once feared slowly disappear with time. The problem is not that fear appears. Fear is natural. The real suffering begins when people keep replaying fear long after the moment has already passed. Some people are still emotionally reliving pain from years ago, not because reality is still hurting them, but because the mind keeps reopening old wounds every single day. The memory ended long ago, but the mind keeps returning to it, feeding it, reliving it, and suffering from it repeatedly. This is why healing requires letting go not only of painful situations, but also of the mental habit of constantly revisiting pain. Many people unknowingly become emotionally attached to suffering. The mind keeps saying, "Think about it one more time, replay it again. Maybe if you overthink enough, you will finally feel safe." But peace never comes through endless fear. Peace comes through acceptance, through awareness, through slowly learning to trust the present moment again. Buddhism teaches that life becomes lighter when you stop trying to mentally suffer before suffering even arrives. Because the truth is, most of the storms the mind creates never become reality. And many of the things you once feared deeply eventually became lessons, memories, or moments that quietly disappeared with time. This is why awareness changes everything. The moment you begin observing fear, instead of automatically obeying it, something inside you softens. You begin understanding that not every fearful thought deserves your belief. Not every imagined future deserves your emotional energy. Not every possibility deserves panic. Sometimes the mind creates pain simply because it is afraid of uncertainty. But life was never meant to be controlled completely. And inner peace begins the moment you stop trying to protect yourself from every possible future. Because real peace is not finding a life without uncertainty. Real peace is learning how to remain calm, even when uncertainty exists. The fearful mind always asks, "What if everything goes wrong?" But awareness slowly teaches you a different question. What if life becomes better than the fear inside my head? And sometimes, that single realization becomes the beginning of freedom. Inner peace begins when you stop obeying every thought. Many people spend their entire life trying to control every thought inside their mind. They believe peace will come when fear disappears completely. They believe healing means the mind will suddenly become silent forever. But Buddhism teaches something very different. Peace does not come from stopping thoughts. Peace comes from stopping your habit of obeying every thought. This changes everything. Because the mind naturally creates thoughts every single day. Some thoughts are calm, some thoughts are fearful, some thoughts are wise, some thoughts are completely irrational. But the real suffering begins when a person automatically follows every thought the moment it appears. The mind says panic, and immediately the body becomes tense. The mind says something bad is going to happen, and suddenly peace disappears. The mind says replay that painful memory again, and the person spends hours emotionally reliving pain that already ended long ago. This is how many people unknowingly become servants to their own mind. Every thought gives an order, and they obey it instantly. They never pause. They never question the thought. They never ask, is this actually true? Is this fear helping me? Do I really need to carry this thought right now? Instead, they follow the mind into every storm it creates. And after years of this habit, mental suffering becomes normal. The mind becomes loud, controlling, and emotionally exhausting. Buddhism teaches that awareness is the beginning of freedom. The moment you become aware of your thoughts instead of unconsciously following them, something powerful begins changing inside you. You start noticing how many thoughts are only fear, how many thoughts are only emotional habits, how many thoughts are old pain repeating itself in different forms. You begin realizing that the mind has been speaking automatically for years, and not every voice inside your head deserves your obedience. This realization can completely transform a person's inner life, because for the first time you understand. You are not forced to follow every thought. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to let a thought pass without turning it into emotional suffering. This is where inner peace begins, not when thoughts disappear, but when your attachment to thoughts becomes weaker. Buddhism often compares thoughts to clouds moving through the sky. Some clouds are dark, some are light, some bring storms, some disappear quickly, but the sky itself remains untouched. In the same way, thoughts come and go inside the mind. But your awareness is deeper than those thoughts. The problem is that most people become emotionally attached to every cloud that passes through their mind. A fearful thought appears, and they immediately believe it. An insecure thought appears, and they immediately become consumed by it. A painful memory appears, and they mentally relive the suffering all over again. This is why the mind becomes so heavy, not because thoughts exist, but because people hold on to them constantly. Imagine carrying every negative thought from every day of your life inside your chest. Eventually, the weight becomes unbearable. This is why so many people feel emotionally exhausted all the time. Their mind never rests because they never stop reacting to every thought. One small fear controls their mood for hours. One painful memory destroys an entire peaceful day. One imagined future steals their sleep at night. And slowly they lose connection with the present moment. Their body is here, but their mind is trapped somewhere else. Trapped in fear, trapped in regret, trapped in overthinking, trapped in emotional noise. But healing begins the moment you stop treating every thought like an emergency. A fearful thought appears, and instead of panicking, you simply notice it. You let it exist without feeding it. You breathe instead of reacting immediately. You observe instead of obeying. This is one of the deepest forms of inner strength, because true peace is not controlling the mind through force. True peace is learning how to remain calm, even while thoughts continue passing through the mind. Many people think awareness is weak because it looks quiet, but awareness is incredibly powerful. It allows you to sit with fear without becoming consumed by fear. It allows you to experience emotions without drowning inside them. It allows you to hear negative thoughts without automatically believing them. And slowly, the storms inside the mind begin losing power. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you stop feeding every storm with your attention. The mind may still create fear sometimes. That is normal. The mind may still overthink sometimes. That is part of being human. But awareness changes your relationship with those thoughts completely. You no longer become lost inside them. You no longer allow every thought to control your emotions. You no longer hand your peace over to every fearful voice inside your head. And this is where true emotional freedom begins. Because inner peace is not the absence of thoughts. Inner peace is the ability to remain centered even when thoughts appear. It is the ability to sit quietly with yourself without constantly fighting your own mind. It is the ability to let fear pass through you without building a home for it inside your heart. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows through attachment, and many people are deeply attached to mental noise without realizing it. They became attached to overthinking, attached to fear, attached to emotional chaos. But the moment awareness enters the mind, those attachments slowly begin weakening. The storms become quieter, the body becomes lighter, the heart begins resting again. And for the first time in a very long time, you stop feeling like a prisoner inside your own mind. Because the moment you stop obeying every fearful thought, peace finally has space to enter your life. Life becomes peaceful when the mind stops creating storms. One of the most powerful truths in Buddhism is this: life itself is often much quieter than the mind. Most of the chaos people suffer from is not coming from the present moment. It is coming from the mind constantly creating noise, fear, pressure, and emotional storms. Right now, in this exact moment, if you stop overthinking for a few seconds, what actually exists? Maybe your breathing, maybe the quiet feeling of being alive, maybe the sound of the wind, the night, or the silence around you. But the mind rarely allows people to stay peacefully inside the present moment. Instead, it keeps dragging them somewhere else, back into old memories, forward into imagined fears, into painful conversations that already ended, into future problems that may never even happen. And because of this, many people spend their entire life physically present, but mentally absent. Their body is sitting in a peaceful room, but their mind is fighting invisible battles somewhere else. This is why life feels heavy for so many people. Not because every moment is painful, but because the mind keeps turning simple moments into emotional suffering. The mind constantly whispers, "You are behind. Something is missing. You should worry more. You are not safe yet. You cannot relax. You need to prepare for the next problem." And after listening to these thoughts for years, people forget what inner stillness feels like. They become so used to mental noise that peace starts feeling unfamiliar. Some people become uncomfortable the moment life becomes quiet. The moment there is silence, their mind immediately creates another storm, another fear, another worry, another painful story. Because the mind became addicted to emotional movement, it no longer knows how to simply rest inside the present moment. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows when the mind constantly resists life as it is. People keep thinking, "This moment is not enough. My future must be different before I can feel peace. I need complete certainty before I can relax." But peace does not arrive when life becomes perfect. Peace arrives when the mind stops fighting reality every second. This is why awareness is so healing. Awareness slowly brings you back to the present moment, back to your breathing, back to reality itself. And reality is often far softer than the fearful stories inside the mind. The mind says everything is falling apart, but reality may simply be asking you to slow down. The mind says, you will never be okay again. But reality keeps moving gently forward, one moment at a time. The mind says, you are trapped. But awareness slowly shows you that most of the prison was created by fearful thinking. This realization changes everything, because the moment you stop feeding mental storms, life begins feeling lighter again. Your breathing becomes calmer. Your nervous system softens. Your heart no longer feels like it is carrying the entire future alone. You stop trying to control every possible outcome. You stop trying to mentally prepare for every painful possibility. You stop treating every uncertain moment like a disaster. And slowly you begin experiencing something many people have not felt in years. Inner peace, not fake peace, not temporary distraction, real peace. The kind of peace that appears when the mind finally becomes quiet enough for you to hear your own soul again. Buddhism teaches that true peace is not found outside yourself. It is uncovered when mental noise becomes weaker. Because underneath all the fear, all the overthinking, all the emotional chaos, there is already a calm and silent part of you. A deeper awareness that was never truly damaged by the storms of the mind. But most people never experience that deeper peace because they spend their entire life chasing thoughts instead of observing them. The mind says, think more, so they think more. The mind says, worry more, so they worry more. The mind says, fear the future, so they keep mentally suffering before life even unfolds. And this endless mental noise slowly steals the beauty of ordinary life. People stop noticing simple moments, a peaceful morning, a quiet sunset, a deep breath, the comfort of silence, the feeling of simply existing without fear. These small moments become invisible when the mind is constantly creating storms. But awareness changes the way you experience life. You begin noticing how peaceful reality often is when the mind stops interfering with everything. You realize many of your fears were only thoughts passing through the mind. Many of the emotional storms were created by imagination, not reality. And slowly, you stop living inside constant psychological tension. You stop searching for danger in every situation. You stop expecting pain from every moment. You stop carrying tomorrow's fear inside today's peace. This is where emotional freedom begins. Not when life becomes completely perfect, but when the mind stops turning life into constant suffering. Because the truth is, life becomes peaceful when the mind stops creating storms that reality never intended. And the moment you truly understand this, something inside you finally begins to rest. The moment you stop feeding the storm, your soul begins to heal. There comes a moment in life when a person becomes tired of carrying fear everywhere, tired of overthinking every situation, tired of imagining the worst, tired of replaying painful memories again and again, tired of fighting invisible battles inside the mind every single day. And eventually, something inside them quietly whispers, I do not want to suffer like this anymore. This moment is powerful. Because true healing often begins not when life changes, but when your relationship with your thoughts finally changes. For many years, the mind may have controlled your emotions completely. Every fear felt real, every negative thought felt important, every painful memory felt impossible to let go of. The mind created storms constantly, and you kept feeding those storms with your attention. But after enough suffering, a deeper awareness slowly begins waking up inside you. You begin noticing how exhausted you have become from carrying thoughts that were never meant to stay forever. You begin seeing how much energy was lost fighting imaginary futures. How many peaceful moments disappeared because the mind kept searching for danger. How many beautiful days you're emotionally ruined by thoughts that were not even true. And slowly, you begin understanding something deeply healing. The storm survives because you keep feeding it. Fear grows because attention keeps returning to it. Overthinking grows because the mind keeps replaying it. Pain stays alive because the mind keeps reopening it. This realization changes everything, because for the first time, you understand that peace is not something you must chase outside yourself. Peace begins the moment you stop giving endless energy to mental chaos. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes calmer when attachment becomes weaker, and many people are deeply attached to suffering without realizing it. Attached to old pain, attached to fear, attached to emotional stories, attached to the habit of expecting something bad to happen. Some people became so used to emotional storms that calmness almost feels strange to them. When life becomes peaceful, they become uncomfortable. The mind immediately says, "Something must be wrong. This peace will not last. Prepare yourself for pain," because the mind spent years living in survival mode. But healing begins when you stop obeying that fearful voice automatically. A painful thought appears, and instead of feeding it for hours, you simply notice it. A fear appears, and instead of building an entire emotional storm around it, you breathe and let it pass naturally. A memory appears, and instead of reopening the wound completely, you allow yourself to remain present. This is one of the deepest forms of inner healing. Not forcing thoughts to disappear, not fighting the mind aggressively, but slowly refusing to feed the storms that destroy your peace. At first, this feels difficult, because the mind has been trained for years to overreact, overthink, and emotionally attach itself to fear. But with awareness, something slowly changes. The storms become weaker, the mind becomes quieter, the body becomes calmer, and little by little your soul begins breathing again. Many people do not realize how deeply the mind affects the soul. Constant fear drains life from the heart. Constant overthinking disconnects people from the beauty of the present moment. People stop truly living because they are too busy mentally surviving. But the moment the storms begin calming down, life begins feeling softer again. You notice simple things more deeply. Silence no longer feels empty. Peace no longer feels boring. You begin enjoying small moments again. A deep breath, a quiet morning, the feeling of sunlight, the sound of rain, the stillness of being alive without fear controlling every second of your mind. This is why Buddhism teaches that awareness brings people back to life, because awareness breaks the cycle of unconscious suffering. You stop reacting automatically. You stop giving every thought complete control over your emotions. You stop treating every fear like prophecy. And for the first time in a very long time, you begin feeling safe inside your own mind again. That is real healing, not becoming perfect, not never feeling fear again, but finally learning how to remain calm without feeding every storm. The truth is, the mind will always create thoughts sometimes. Some days will still feel heavy. Some fears will still appear. But awareness changes everything because you no longer become lost inside those storms. You begin understanding that thoughts are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. And this understanding slowly frees the heart from years of unnecessary suffering. Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you create. Peace already exists underneath the noise, underneath the overthinking, underneath the fear, underneath the emotional chaos. But the storms of the mind became so loud that you forgot that peaceful part of yourself was always there. And the moment you stop feeding those storms, that deeper peace slowly returns. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, gently. Like a tired soul finally coming home to itself after years of wandering through fear. And maybe that is the deepest truth of all. Your soul was never truly broken. It was only exhausted from carrying storms that reality never intended for you to hold. The mind will always create thoughts, some peaceful, some fearful, some heavy, some beautiful. But Buddhism teaches that freedom begins the moment you stop believing every storm inside your head. Because not every thought is truth. Not every fear is a warning, and not every emotion deserves control over your life. For so long, many people live trapped inside invisible storms. They carry anxiety that never became reality. They carry fear about futures that never arrived. They carry emotional pain created by thoughts they repeated again and again. And slowly, they forget what inner peace even feels like. But tonight, is something inside you finally awakened. Maybe for the first time, you realize that your mind has been creating suffering that reality never intended. Maybe you finally understand that peace is not found by controlling every situation. Peace begins when you stop feeding every fearful thought with your attention. Because underneath all the overthinking, underneath all the emotional noise, underneath all the fear, there is still a quiet part of you that wants to rest. A calm part of you that was never destroyed by the storm. And the moment you stop chasing fear, you begin hearing that peaceful part of yourself again. Little by little, the mind becomes quieter, the heart becomes lighter, life becomes softer. And for the first time in a long time, you stop surviving inside your mind and finally begin living inside the present moment. If this video spoke to something deep inside you, take a moment to subscribe to the Inner Buddha Code and become part of this journey toward inner peace and awareness. And if you are still listening until this moment, comment, "I will stop feeding the storm." Sometimes one small moment of awareness can change the direction of an entire life. Until next time, protect your peace, slow down your mind, and remember, not every storm inside your head belongs to reality.